time having this meeting, January 2019, and this is a Wounded Healers meeting, which is basically a feature of the Reintegration Support Network, an organization where we mentor teens that are struggling with drug and or alcohol abuse and some mild mental health issues. We describe what we do as standing on the front end of the school to prison pipeline, trying to circumvent the probability of younger people going through some of the same things that we all have went through, which kind of describes us to be wounded healers. Guys who have had some real experiences, and we want to transfer those experiences in a package where we could be a mentor and a guiding light to teens that are struggling with themselves by way of drug use and abuse. And we welcome y'all to the show. We thank you for tuning in, and we welcome all questions. And we can introduce ourselves. I'm Will. I'm the Outreach and Volunteer Coordinator for the Reintegration Support Network, in short, RSN.
My name is Emmanuel Kearney. I'm a volunteer here at RSN.
Josh Cashell, volunteering, actual first meeting I'm attending.
Jessica Green, I'm also a volunteer here at RSN.
Tommy Green, y'all know me since since this is my group page. Happy to be here. I'm also a volunteer with the Wounded Healers organization. I'm very excited about all the work that we're trying to get started and the work that we're doing so far.
So you tuning in to a group of people trying to figure out how can we be a part of the solution and no more part of some of the problems that's probably plaguing everybody in one way or another, every community, every city. And we welcome your input. So fellas, right now what we're working on is an opportunity to train potential mentors and volunteers to be peer support specialists. And we're hashing it out so that we can provide the training and finance the training, and in turn the time that's given back as a volunteer will kind of balance that out and kind of compensate us back for financing the training. And we have another wounded healer that's just entered the building. So we'll let him introduce himself. We on live stream. The camera's not big enough to include him.
No, the camera ain't big enough for you.
Going right ahead, sir. And everybody just pretty much introducing themselves by name, and that's it.
Damaris Tucker, Wounded Healer.
And again, wounded healers are guys who have been through the prison system and are at a place in their lives where we want to give back. Particularly in this case, by volunteering to be mentors and guides and facilitators for younger people to kind of be a little bit more positive and do better things rather than go through this school to prison pipeline. We really, really have a heart to try to circumvent that, if not stop it. And if anybody is qualified to stand in the gap in such a way, I would think it would be us. Don't y'all agree?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, any questions?
What is the success rate thus far, Wounded Healers? Have y'all really been out in the field doing some work?
Tom McQuiston, the founder of the Reintegration Support Network, he did some research, and I forget the guy's name that he was in communications with, and this guy is educated psychologist of some sort. Yeah, something like that. Some name that I won't remember if I heard it right now. And he did some studies that suggest that people that have been in prison are least likely to return to prison if they do service work. That gives them some kind of value. They feel they're responsible for being an influence to someone else. When you do service work, when you give of yourself freely, statistics say they're less likely to return to prison. So Wounded Healers gives a platform and opportunity for guys that want to do it to use their experience as some type of agency to be an influence in another direction for these kids that are dealing with these drugs. Primarily, they say opioid addiction. And we all know how the school to prison pipeline goes. One way or another, you get suspended or kicked out of school. One way or another after that, you usually have to deal with the criminal justice system. And we all know that you can be 14 years old and end up in an adult penitentiary. That's the pipeline. school to prison pipeline. Once you get kicked out of school, the statistics say it's highly likely you're gonna get involved with the police. If you add drug addiction to that, and alcohol addiction, and some mild mental health problems to that, the chances of you going to jail are even higher. So guys like us who hear about this, they say, hey, how can I be a mentor? And what does that mean to be a mentor? And how we describe it in our paraphernalia is what we do is build circles of support around teens that we get referred to us by the juvenile justice system, by some schools, and by some mental health institutions. And to build a circle of support takes the leverage off of one person trying to mentor one person. Everybody has their own lives, have their own children, they work. So when you put several people around a team, the time is more leverageable. It's more manageable, I should say, where you have, the team knows that he has several people he or she can call to talk to before they relapse. Now, all our teens have been in recovery. They know they have a problem. They understand structure. But what also has happened through time doing such research is that when people, not just teens, get out of recovery, there's usually a void. If you don't continue to go to meetings, you left to yourself. What do I do now? But while I was in recovery, while I was in the institution, I was doing everything I was supposed to do, and I felt great. But now I'm done with that. I'm home now. I'm usually back in my same neighborhood, tempted to interact with my same friends, and probably going to go back to doing some of the same things. When you know if that's you, and you know you have a circle of support that you can contact, to just say, hey, I'm feeling vulnerable, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feeling unsure, I need to talk, because I know I have a problem. I don't want to use again. I need to know I have a sponsor or several sponsors that I could call. Because you might be at work, you're not answering your phone. So now I'm going to call Jessica. Her phone might be off, she ain't by no minutes. Let me call Tommy. Let me call Tommy, because I don't want to go back to that. My having been in recovery has taught me that I have a problem. So that's a help for us. That's a boom, because we get teens who do know that they have these issues. And you get a chance to advocate. You get a chance, you get a chance to go to courtrooms and talk to judges on behalf of a teen you might be mentoring. To say, hey, this kid don't need jail. He needs help. He needs a support system. He needs a circle of support. And that, to me, that was one of the most fulfilling things. As a wounded healer, having been through the court system and sent to prison, the first time I did go to prison to go to court to talk for a kid, it was hard going through that metal detector, man, that threshold. I said, man, I don't want to see these people again. Take everything out your pockets, put it in a tray, slide it through. But when I sat in those pews and the judge came in, all rise, man, it brought back memories of my trial. But I endured it, and when I left out, I said, wow, that's what this is really about, pushing through how I personally felt about it, to be an advocate for somebody else that has no clue what they get ready to deal with. No clue.
And like you mentioned earlier too, it's also therapeutic for the wounded healers with the research that you brought up. It's almost like you're being held accountable for yourself as far as dealing with a teen or whatnot. You want to stay right. You want to stay out. You want to stay doing good. So you'll be a model for their youth. So essentially, both of the people, the youth that we're trying to mentor to, and the person that's doing the mentoring, get something out of it. You know, so I think it's a great program, definitely.
What age group is the desired target? What age groups?
We get, our referrals are between 14 and 18. And there are some exceptions. Sometimes we stretch past that. And the beautiful thing about being a wounded healer is that our experience of having been incarcerated holds way more value when interacting with this kid than someone who has went to school and did a lot of studying and sits in a social worker seat, so to speak. I'm not devaluing that, but from experience, that team feels a different connection with somebody who's literally been through that pipeline. Where you can say to a teen, hey, listen, I'm telling you, been there and done that. And when that teen can sense that you are sincere and they can trust you, they tend to more listen to, put more stock in what you say as opposed to somebody else. So we don't stand against what other people say. They have psychologists, they have social workers, they have counselors. We kind of align ourselves with whatever agencies that these teams are already connected with. I.e., there goes a unique wounded healer, which is just one of the elements and built within that circle of support. So,
I think too, as Reem was saying, you get a different type of credibility with kids. That's just like dealing with somebody with an addiction or some type of issue with alcohol. If a lot of the most effective counselors have been those who've been in recovery, you just get a different. For instance, I had a conversation with my wife about a friend of mine that's struggling, and she was like, "Well, I just don't understand how, if he knows this was going to happen, how he can go back." And I explained it, and she still didn't get it. It's that sense of identification. So when a kid hear that you've been through this same, be it drugs or prison, been through that same type of environment, it gives them a sense of, I can tell my daughter something who tries to be in the streets. I can tell her something, and what I say holds more weight than my wife who's never been out there. Her response is that, "Mommy, you don't know what you're talking about." Daddy will say some of the same things, but she takes it different because she knows her father's journey. That's kind of that identification with the kids.
and that's what the studies say. And also, for the wounded healer, him or herself, it's an anchor for them when they realize that there's another person depending on them or looking at them to see what they do. Because once that trust is established, you become, unfortunately, sometimes more influential than the parent, his or herself. You know how the story goes, man. People are more likely to listen to a stranger than if dad said the same exact thing. Dad don't know what he's talking about, or mom doesn't know what she's talking about. A stranger who says, "Hey, look, listen, I'm not trying to run your life, but if you continue to do this, this is what's going to happen." How you know? Well, if you got time, I could share my story with you and tell you how I know. They're more likely. That's more likely to stick with them. And that's what those studies. I can't remember that guy's name. That's what those studies suggest. And Tom said he might stop in and pay us a visit, but we're always open for volunteers for input from professionals or non-professionals, because we understand that this problem is always evolving and morphing, and we got to be just as athletic on our toes as this reality may be. And as we grow, we just had the courage to continue to keep figuring out solutions to what we can do better so we can stand in the gap for these kids. And in the spirit of that, like I said, we welcome all comments, all feedback, and any potential volunteers. We're working on an opportunity to provide peer support specialist training, which is a state certification accredited through UNC, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's a staple, man. That's a real important stake in the ground to know that you're certified to stand in the gap. It gives you a lot of agency and flexibility to move through different institutions and represent as someone who's qualified, not just through experience, but also through this structure and this system that says, hey, you have a stamped approval to speak to this reality. So please chime in and give us some feedback. And again, my name is Will. I'm the Outreach and Volunteer Coordinator, and we thank you for tuning in.